great to have you back. You're still watching the morning show here on Arise News. Rufai, Deji Adeyanju will be joining us shortly from our Abuja studios. Social activist. But he has been locked up a couple of times.
Oh, yeah?
He's had falling out with his former allies.
Yes.
And a lot of that. Some people think that, you know, in this democracy, there are no more selfless activists. I don't know, what do you think?
I think that you will lay all of that to bear in this interview, and I'm really excited about the fact that Deji's excited about this interview. Deji has a lot to say, and I think this is about the first televised interview since he was released and for his, after he was arrested for his activism work. We also get to talk about many other things in this interview, and Deji has a lot to say, especially in this dispensation. Only recently, he led a protest march, for the removal of the INEC chairman, and there are many things Deji wants to talk about. So it's an interview I'm looking forward to. Deji is equally looking forward to the interview.
Okay,
and let's see how it pans out.
We hear Mr. Deji Adeyanju is ready for us. As Africa's most populous country, largest economy, and biggest democracy, Nigeria is a bellwether for the continent. National and state elections in 2019 were deeply competitive, with scattered instances of violence amid a mostly peaceful process. However, historically low voter turnout signals a deepening distrust in government and institutions. Overall, Nigeria has made major strides in its democratic development, but still has significant work to do in improving national, state, and local governance. Well, as we already told you, social activist Deji Adeyanju joins us now to discuss this and more. Welcome to the show. Great to have you join us. Let me just begin by asking you, I mean, for 78 days, you were at the pleasure of the federal government of Nigeria before you were granted bail. Do you feel your activism is a direct link to your incarceration?
Obviously, they are all related. Before the election, that incident where I spent 78 days in prison wasn't the first incident. There were several other incidents, and there had always been this deliberate attempt at shrinking the civic space in Nigeria. A government that seeks to control the executive, judiciary, and the legislature will definitely not tolerate civic space. And like you are all aware, democracy is about the ability of the people to express their views, drive home their points. Yes, the majority may have their way, but the minority must always have their say. But in this case, we do not even have a majority who is bullying and having their way. We have a minority who rigged an election, who continuously abuse the rule of law and even due process in the way things are being done. So my incarceration basically was aimed at stifling the civic space, because they know, the government, they did an assessment, they know that if I was out during the election, most of the things they did, we just will not tolerate it. And they believe that some of us were a threat to their rigging plot to manipulate the will of the people, and that was why they technically kept us in detention for that long period of time. But be that as it may, that has not deterred us in any way, and we are even more stronger and better. But you see, the clear thing that we must get is that Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, has stated clearly the role and the duty of the legislature. You understand? Section 5 states clearly the role and the duties of the executive arm of government, which the president heads. And Section 6 states clearly the role of the judiciary. So if any arm of government is interfering in the running of the other arms of government, then we have tyranny. So democracy is the ability to maintain separation of powers, which is currently the major challenge we are going to face for the next 4 years, because we have a government in place that believes that it ought to control both the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. You can see how the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen, was unconstitutionally removed from office. So if the two major other arms of government are facing, so much, persecution, how much more many of us who are in the civic space? So we expect even more from the government.
Deji, a lot of people in some quarters will say you were docked because of fake news. You peddled what was fake or was salacious against somebody else. A lot of people will also want to know what the prison experience was like. Were you tortured? Were your rights violated in any way?
Well,
and how did you seek legal redress to that?
You see, yes, you see, I have, the issue is very simple. You know, before the last incarceration where I spent 78 days in prison, they had arrested me for leading a protest against the police right in front of the force headquarters, you know, and the issue was that I said the police must be unbiased and neutral in the conduct of the general election. And the former IG felt that that was an assault on him or on the police, and they arrested me and took me to Kefi prison with other members of our group, the Concerned Nigerians group. And we spent, I think, over a week. And while I was released, I was rearrested right in front of the prison again. And they took me again for another phantom charge, you know, and again, rearranged me, and I was also granted bail. But they felt that if they kept arresting and arraigning me for civil matters, you know, the courts will always grant me bail. So they went and they were looking for how to, you know, frame me up, either maybe for treason, or I even heard in some quarters that they were, at some time, they were contemplating, you know, framing me up for rape. Because, you know, rape is a capital offense. They'll just get someone and say the person will just make a complaint to the police that I raped her, blah, 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 blah. But when they saw that that couldn't work, they went and dug up an old case where I was discharged and acquitted. But be that as it may, you see, prison, the Nigerian prison, we have a lot, you know, to do, which is one of the major projects that my organization, you know, is doing now in terms of prison reforms, you know, and reaching out to those who are in prison. You know, the Nigerian prison system is not a place for any form of reformation whatsoever. In fact, you know, I'll be glad to tell you that it's a breeding ground for more criminals. The people I pity the most are the first-time offenders who go into these prisons, who never, many of them are innocent. But when they go into these prisons, they go to mix up with deadly criminals, armed robbers, kidnappers, car snatchers, and so many of these people, you know, and they get introduced into the world of crime. And that should concern every reasonable government. You know, there should be a mechanism in place where first-time offenders are separated from those who are perpetual criminals, so that yes, prison, the essence of prison is for deterrence, discipline. Yes, but if we do not have a prison system that really works in that direction, then we defeat the purpose for which the prisons were established. And you know, the feeding system in the prison is extremely bad. Most of the food they give these guys, you can't give it to your dog. You understand? And the living condition of these prisoners, the living conditions are so terrible, so terrible. You know, so we must, especially for the first-time offenders, we must push reforms that protects the first-time offenders, especially those who, because most of the cases in prison are cases that, you know, could have been resolved through alternative dispute resolution, ADR. And when you look at it critically, you discover that why is this person in prison awaiting trial? And some of them are in these prisons awaiting trial for such a long time for a case that even if they are found guilty of, you know, they will have served their term. And so when they come out, first the stigma, secondly, they've met, you know, hardened criminals in prison who have taught them one or two things and who is willing to link them up with criminals who are out there. So you see, we are creating more problems for the country than, you know, before this person went into prison. So I think this is another thing that we need to look at as a nation.
Well, Mr. Adeyanju, there are those who say, you know, you benefited from the People's Democratic Party government and you are thus sympathetic towards the party. Now, coupled with the fact that you were incarcerated or detained by this administration, is it possible that you can be unbiased in your activism, in your commentary to governance?
Well, even during the PDP regime, there was so much criticism that we directed at that government, and it was evident in most of the things that we said. If those who have followed us for a long time know that when the issue of Stella Odua came up and the issue of the bulletproof, they saw how aggressive and how critical we were of that government. On the issue of Dezani and all the corruption that was going on in NNPC, people saw how, you know, we spoke up so, you know, fiercely. And this government is not an exception. We are speaking up against the government because if the government does what is right, we praise. On several occasions, I've been very, you know, critical of this government. But when they get one or two things right, I've also, you know, not been shy in praising them.
Such
You
as
know,
what?
the government just has to do better.
What instances have you praised them?
When the president first came in, and you know, it was the war against Boko Haram, they were dealing very ruthlessly with with Boko Haram. I always praised the government when they came on board, and they were doing very well. And there was so much progress that was recorded when the president first came in. You know, the first year of the president in office, he did so very well, you know, in the fight against Boko Haram. And when everything turned around and things were becoming bad, I've been very critical of the government, and no apologies for that. If anybody feels that my criticism of the government, you know, makes them uncomfortable, then they should do what will make us not to criticize them. If government does well, and a critic laughing at him, but when government does so poorly, and government expects that people will not criticize them, then it's just a joke. And governance must always be about service. Governance should not be about, you know, I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to that, or no, this is our turn to rule, or oh, no, it's the Southwest must produce this, the North must produce this, or this position is kept for people of a particular tribe or ethnic group. So governance must be who can get the job done, and the person should just fix the country. Governance should not be about complaining. It's just like the same thing I said about the governor of, the new governor of Imo State, complaining about the former governor, Rochas. You were elected because there was a problem. Fix the problem. Stop complaining. You cannot spend 4 years complaining, you understand, about a former government.
Okay, real quickly, before we go on a break very soon, a lot of people say the fight between you and CharlyBoy was because of money. You'll come back and answer that after we go on this break. The fight between you and CharlyBoy was because of monies and collected. And where are you today as regards to that relationship? We'll come back and talk about this and even more issues with Deji Adeyanju.
Glad to have you back on the Morning Show here on the Rise News. Still joining us from our Abuja studio is social activist Deji Adeyanju. Thank you so much, Mr. Deji, for staying with us. Rufai had a question for you before that break.
Yes, like I said before, Mr. Adeyanju, we heard that the reason for your fight with CharlyBoy while you were in prison was because of money. And where are you with CharlyBoy now as regards your relationship?
Well, you see, like I told him the last time I saw him, I said light and darkness have nothing in common. Oil and water can never mix. And, you know, I still stand by my word on that.
You are light, CharlyBoy's darkness, or what?
Well, he knows. Go and ask him. He knows. You understand? I told him specifically, when we were starting the movement, there were some ground rules. I said, we must not do certain things. And there are people who are members of the movement who you can reach out to, Comrade Ario, Comrade Raphael. Even Yele Sowore is a witness to everything that happened, because he was the one that linked me up with CharlyBoy, you know, and everything that we did. So every step along the way, I always made sure I informed Sowore of the developments and everything that was happening. So when he started compromising the movement, I told Sowore, I told Comrade Ario, and everybody that was a witness to everything that happened, that this man is not a straightforward man. And I warned them when we were starting the movement that nobody must use the name of this movement to go and collect money. Because if it was about collecting money, then why did we leave all these dirty things that people do? And we said that we need to sanitize and come to the civic space of the country. So I specifically told them about certain ground rules that must not be compromised. And I was very clear that anybody who used the name of the organization to collect money, you understand, should count me out. And that once it backfires, that I will not be a party to any of such. So I made it very clear to them, but he in particular did not listen. The issue of going to collect money from the oppressors was not the real issue. There were several issues of going to collect money from them. You understand? There were so many issues. They collected money from so many people. And when I had it, you know, I confronted him once before the prison experience, and I warned him. You understand? And he said it will never happen again.
CharlyBoy confirmed to you that he will never collect money again. Is that what he said? Can you hear me? Deji Adeyanju? Deji Adeyanju, okay, we'll try to get back to Deji Adeyanju very soon, but In case you missed that, you know, he's making some very, very salient points here as regards the fight between him and CharlyBoy at the Mumu Don't Do movement. And we'll get across to him in Abuja here because he has just said something very strongly that CharlyBoy did apologize to him, according to Deji Adeyanju, when
telling him that he would not collect money
he would not collect money again.
Insinuating that he had collected.
Now, we're going to get to the root of this at Arise TV and many other issues with Deji Adeyanju as soon as we can get back to him, because that's just at the crux of the matter. And for fairness and balance, it's an open ticket too to CharlyBoy. If he wants to join us on Arise TV to come make a defense for all of this, it's open. It's out there. Arise TV balances every side out. Deji Adeyanju, as you were saying, you said the first time you talked to CharlyBoy about this, he apologized for collecting money the first time, right? Continue and take the story from there.
Yes, so he did apologize and said it will never happen again. And I said that if such a thing ever happens again, I will never be part of the movement and I'll pull out of the movement. And there were 4 of us there, and thank God that Yellow Showore is still alive. You can verify because he later joined in. And so he apologized, and I said, let bygones be bygones. Then the issue of my incarceration happened, and I went to prison.
Deji, these are allegations you are making. You are alleging. Deji, just to come in here, all of these are allegations.
Reach out to him.
All of these are allegations. I should state it. You are alleging.
Reach out. Yeah, reach out to him. Reach out to him. He may deny, but there are witnesses.
But you are alleging. I should state that.
So when yeah, of course. It's good that you state it. So when my incarceration thing happened, and I was told that he collected money, and when I came out, I went to verify it. I verified it from 2 reliable sources, and I confirmed. And I went to meet him in his house, and I said, "You did this, you did this, you did that," and he said he's sorry, and he said that he was only trying to mediate. You understand? He met Kiamo, and he was trying to mediate, blah, 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 blah. And I said, how can a fellow comrade be in detention by a government that sent him to prison, and you went behind my back to collect money from them after the last encounter we had, and after everything I said? I told him, I said, you have 17 grandchildren. 17 grandchildren. And the impression out there is that you are genuinely doing this because of the love of country. I said, I can never be associated with you because you do not represent the values that I hold dear. That if it was to be collecting money, we would never have come into activism to do activism. And as such, I can never have anything to do with you. He followed me to my car begging that we should reconcile. I just simply told him, there's nothing to reconcile. They can never be. There is no.
You felt betrayed, Deji. You were betrayed by this.
You see. The reason why the audio recording even leaked was because there were people who were in the know before I went to confront him, and they insisted that the guy is dishonest and he would deny that I should tape record him. And so, that was why I taped record my conversation with him. The conversation I had with him, I taped record everything. I was so unhappy that part of the audio recording got out and Sahara Reporter used it, because I sent it to people, I think about 3 or 4 people in confidence. I sent those audio recordings to 3 or 4 people in confidence, and I was so disappointed when I saw the audio trending online. You see, the reason why we must be very careful about who we associate ourselves with and the things we do, and the reason why even the Nigerian people are suspicious of everybody, is that over the years, over the decades, Nigerians have invested their trust and confidence in so many people, whether they be political leaders, civil rights activists, and these people have so betrayed the Nigerian people. For instance, when President Buhari won the election in 2015, look, after the Mandela phenomenon in South Africa, look at the momentum, how excited people were about the...
Okay.
People believe in President Buhari.
Let me come in here so that we make this a conversation and not a monologue. So you felt betrayed, and you have almost said that the fears of Nigerians, that there are no true, selfless democratic activist was justified, almost justified, by the Mumudonju saga and the allegations you have raised. But let's quickly talk about something else because, and I need your yes or no answer. You raised an alarm before the 2019 elections that the card readers were manipulated not to show locations. But now we have seen the EU report, IROI and NDI. They did not talk about the manipulations you raised, but they did slam the election as falling short of expectations. Were you surprised? We need to go.
You see, everything I said about INEC happened. Everything I said, the conspiracy, the plan not to make sure that the electronic transmission of results was used, every single thing I said about INEC happened in the election.
Okay. That's it. We'd like to say a very big thank you, Mr. Deji Adeyanju. I would like to state expressly here that those were allegations made by Deji Adeyanju about CharlyBoy, and in the spirit of fairness and journalism, Mr. CharlyBoy, Charles Oputa, is open to join us in the studio and defend his own side of these allegations.
Thank you so much, Deji Adeyanju, for being a part of the show. And that's it. It's a wrap. I am Adesola Omoroan.
And I'm Rufai Hussaini.
Goodbye.